breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an amazing podcast for you as in segment number 2, we're going to be chatting with one of our good buddies, Danny Vietti, who does great work over at CBS Sports, along with the Wake Rake Podcast, which you're able to find wherever you hear podcasts. We're going to be talking about some of the remarkable streaks that we've had to begin the season. Jordan Walker being able to get a hit in his first 12 games of his young career. We're going to be talking about the Tampa Bay Rays, what they've been able to do. We're also going to be talking about a few teams that are going to be up close and in person on Thursday. It's a rather limited slate of games on Thursday with just 7, so we're going to be talking a lot about those teams, some of their outlooks, and then in the final segment, going to give you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Thursday as we touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at @GNet_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM. Name does not matter. As per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you are able to fire on whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter questions today, but we had a great day of baseball on Wednesday, and we got a few games from Tuesday night to clean up as well. So let's take a look back at those, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
DK Nation pick for Tuesday just suffered a very sad death on this one. 9-6, the St. Louis Cardinals got done over the Colorado Rockies. Rockies had a 4-run lead going into the 7th inning, and then 4 unearned runs score due to a Colorado Rockies error, and that would be a theme on Wednesday as well. And then they blow it in the 9th inning as the error in this one that was committed by Ryan McMahon. And for Colorado, you did have a trio of home runs in this game with Mr. McMahon, who I just mentioned, 3rd home run season off of Miles Michaelis. CJ Cron goes deep off of Michaelis, 4th home run season, and then you had Elias Diaz get a 2nd home run season as Miles Michaelis got shelled again. 6 runs given up in 5 innings, but bullpen from there held down the fort. Genesis Cabrera, Giovanni Gallegos, a combined 3 scoreless innings, and then Ryan Helsley closed the door, stranding 2 men on in the bottom of the 9th. And for the Colorado Rockies, Kyle Freeland was terrific. He did give up 2 solo home runs, but he gave up just 2 runs in 6 innings as going deep off of him, Tommy Edman first home run season and Juan Yepez his first, but then Nolan Gorman in the 9th inning, he goes deep off of Pierce Johnson for his 3rd home run in the campaign as Johnson could not get out of the 9th inning. He gives up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning before Connor Siebold holds down the fort. And then in that 7th inning, you had Dinelson Lamet and Jake Bird sort of go a combined 2 innings between the 6th and 7th inning. Bird gives up those 3 runs, but they were all unearned, and Lamet, he gives up another run as well. And then on Wednesday, you saw Jose Urena get Urena all over as the Cardinals get a 7-4 win. As for St. Louis, Nolan Arenado takes it to his old team. He goes deep off of Urena, his 2nd home run season. Urena gives one up to Tyler O'Neill, his 2nd home run season. Then Justin Lawrence gives one up to Nolan Gorman. Back-to-back days for a home run for him. 4th home run in the campaign. As for Urena, gives up 3 runs in 5 innings. And then the bullpen, they were unable to do their job as you had CJ Cron have an error. McMahon, he didn't have an error, but he didn't look good in the field as Justin Lawrence gives up those 2 unearned runs in an inning. Brent Suter gives up a run in 1 1/3 innings. Brad Hand, a pair of outs out of the bullpen, and Connor Siebold has to come on again. He gave up a run in an inning, and Jurickson Profar led off the game for the Colorado Rockies with a home run, 2nd home run season. That comes off of 1. Captain Jack Flaherty, who looked solid in this game. 2 runs, one of which was earned in 5 1/3 innings. At Coors, that's solid. They'd have Drew Verhagen give up 2 runs over the course of a 1/3 of an inning, but Zach Thompson, 2/3 of an inning, scoreless. Andre Palante and Ryan Helsley, scoreless inning, and Giovanni Gallegos, pair of outside the bullpen to be able to stem the tide. And then you did see late on Tuesday, the San Francisco Giants just completely take it to the LA Dodgers. 5-0 the final. Dodgers in this game, 3 total hits as Dustin May didn't pitch bad. He gave up 2 runs in 5 1/3 innings. Did have Evan Phillips give up 3 runs in an inning out of the bullpen, but Caleb Ferguson, Shelby Miller, and Brusardo Graterol combined for 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. But for the Dodgers, despite having just 3 hits, they strand 11 men on base, had their opportunities, and they could not cash in as Alex Wood gives up 3 walks in 4 2/3 innings. From there, Jacob Junis, Scott Alexander both go a 2/3 of an inning scoreless. Camilo Doval, John Brebbia, and Tyler Rogers. I'll give you a scoreless inning from there. We don't know how they were able to do for Wednesday since their Greg Peterson experience. That is now from midnight to 3 Eastern time, so do have to record a little bit ahead of time, and we're going to be trying to get you guys a score for Royals and Rangers from Wednesday, but for Tuesday, it took extra innings, but the Rangers got the job done by a kind of 8-5, another one of these games where things got harebrained in extra innings as Jordan Lyles gives up 4 runs in 6 1/3 innings. From there, the bullpen was able to do their part until you had a big giant walk-off grand slam as Amir Garrett, 2/3 of an inning scoreless, Carlos Hernandez and Aroldis Chapman, they both go scoreless inning, and then Scott Barlow, 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in 2/3 of an inning. As for the Texas Rangers, Jonah Heim, it wasn't a walk-off grand slam, but rather a walk-off 3-run homer. He was able to get it done as the Rangers covered the run line and everything as Jacob deGrom, he gets a no decision after a good start. Where have we seen this before? 2 runs surrendered in 7 innings. From there, Jonathan Hernandez gives up a run without getting a single out. Will Smith got jiggy with it, giving up a run in an inning. Jose Leclerc, an unearned run, given up in 1 1/3 innings before Cole Reagans gets you a pair of outs out of the bullpen. So there was that. What we also saw in the MLB on Wednesday is the first 10 games ago final. Only 1 game had gone over the total, as one of those was the DK Nation pick, which we had under in Angels versus Nationals. Now, if you take a look back to the game on Tuesday, that was a 2-0 final with the Angels being able to get it done. Shohei Ohtani, thanks, giving up 1 hit in 7 scoreless innings. Jose Quiada, Carlos Estevez, a scoreless inning, and Logan O'Hoppe was the difference maker in this one. 4th home run season off of Yusei Gray, who didn't pitch bad, giving up 2 runs in 5 2/3 innings. You had Anthony Banda give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen, and Thaddeus Ward, 1 2/3 innings scoreless. A little bit more offense on Wednesday, but relatively good pitching, as you did have Mackenzie Gore give up 2 runs over the course of 3 2/3 innings. Just knocked himself early due to walks. 4 walks in total, 88 pitches. From there, the bullpen did their part. Ransomel Ramirez, Carl Edwards Jr. scoreless inning. Hunter Harvey had 2/3 of an inning scoreless. Mason Thompson gives up 1 run in 1 2/3 innings, but not bad there. Meanwhile, for the Washington Nationals, they were unable to take advantage of the fact that this was Griffin Canning's first start since the 2021 campaign. Canning gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. Bullpen from there gave up 1 hit and 4 scoreless. Matt Moore, Aaron Loup, Brian Tepera, Jose Quiada all give you a scoreless inning. For the Angels, they do go just 2 of 11 with men in scoring position. So DK Nation pick cashes, and the Angels, they get back-to-back wins. So credit to them. The lone over that you saw in the early slate of games on Wednesday belonged to Diamondbacks versus Brewers, and that's because you had Junk on the mound, and I'm not even kidding. 7-3. Here's in the Diamondbacks get the win. Jansen Junk gave up 5 runs, 4 of which were earned for the Milwaukee Brewers in 4 2/3 innings, including a deep shot going deep for the years and the Diamondbacks. Lourdes Gurriel's first home run season, then Corbin Carroll off of Gus Varland gets his 3rd home run season. For Mr. Varland, he gives up 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings. Hobie Milner, Avi Guerra both lend a scoreless inning for the Milwaukee Brewers. They strand 9 men on base as Dre Jemison lent a short start, but a good start. 4 scoreless innings. You did have Luis Frias come out of the bullpen, give up all 3 runs without getting a single out, but Kyle Nelson, Kevin Ginkel combined for 2 scoreless innings, and then Scott McGill, Miguel Castro, and Andrew Chafin all were able to supply a scoreless inning. The Houston Astros held the Pittsburgh Pirates scoreless 7-0 the final. As for Houston, you had Alex Bregman, who always gets off to a slow start to the season. It feels like he's picking it up. He went deep off of Dodi Maretta for his 2nd home run season, and home run number 1 for Corey Julks. He goes deep off of Rich Hill, who's the oldest active starter in the big leagues. Not actually a bad start here for Hill, by the way. He gave up that home run, but just 2 runs in total over the course of 6 innings. Maretta gave up the home run to Bregman. 3 runs surrendered in a 1/3 of an inning. J.C. Young, 2 runs given up in 1 2/3 innings before you get a scoreless inning out of Jose Hernandez. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, nothing doing for them on offense. Jose Urquidy, 6 scoreless innings before Hector Neris, Brian Abreu, Ronel Blanco were able to lend a scoreless inning. The Minnesota Twins, they take down the Chicago White Sox by a count of 3-1. Lucas Giolito did not look bad in the start, by the way. He gives up 1 run in 6 innings. From there, you get a duo of Keenan Middleton and Jake Diekman lend a scoreless inning, but Aaron Bummer, he was a bummer, giving up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning before Gregory Santos closes out that 8th inning. And lone form of power for the White Sox came too little too late, as you did get a home run in the 9th inning out of Lennon Sosa, his first home run season. But for Minnesota, Sonny Gray was stealing 5 scoreless innings. Ode Alcala, Ode Lopez, Griffin Jackson will give you a scoreless inning before Yohan Duran gives up that home run in the 9th inning when things had already pretty much been decided. The New York Yankees are able to slip by the Cleveland Guardians by a count of 4-3, as this was the first ever start for a young Peyton Battenfield, and he was batting down the hatches, giving up 2 runs, 1 of which was earned in 4 2/3 innings. Nick Samlin is scoreless, 1 1/3 innings. James Kieran checked his scoreless inning, but it was Emmanuel Clase who had issues in the ninth inning as he gives up an unearned run. He was hurt by a pair of errors out there in the field. Trevor Seaven, he did allow a solo home run along the way as well as Franchi Cordero. His fourth home run season and back-to-back days for a home run with him. Clark Schmidt not necessarily cutting it in the Yankees rotation thus far. He gives up 3 runs over the course of 4 innings, including a home run going deep for the Cleveland Guardians. Mr. Ahmed Rosario, his first home run season. Everyone else had his back though, as Clay Holmes, Wandy Peralta, Ron Medanacchio all give you a scoreless inning, and Michael King, he was the king with 2 scoreless innings to be able to get the Yankees to the window. You did see the Seattle Mariners and the Chicago Cubs after they had that harebrained game on Tuesday play a more calm game with Seattle getting a 5-2 win. Logan Gilbert gives up just 1 run in 6 2/3 innings on a windy day out in Wrigley. Paul Sewald does give up a run in an inning as going deep off of him. Cody Bellinger, second home run of the season, but you did have a scoreless inning. Justin Topa and Matt Brash in out of the bullpen for Seattle. Pair of home runs in this one as you had Teoscar Hernandez get his third home run season off of Mr. Julian Merriweather, and you had Merriweather give up a 482 tank shot to Jared Keldick. This thing would have been out in like planet Pluto. This was insane. His, I believe now, third home run of the season as he's starting to heat up as Merriweather gives up those 2 solo home runs over the course of his inning. Marcus Stroman takes the loss, tough luck loser, gives up 2 runs in 6 innings on a windy day in Wrigley. He pitched well. Brad Boxberger gives up a run and an inning, and Michael Fulmer a scoreless inning of his own. You saw the New York Metropolitans be able to get it done by a count of 5-2 against the San Diego Padres as Blake Snell has been having some issues, to say the least, to begin the season as he goes 5 innings, giving up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned, including a pair of home runs for the Mets. Pete Alonso goes deep, his league-leading 6th home run season, and then you had Francisco Lindor get a 2nd home run season. From there, Brent Honeywell gives up a 1 run and 1 2/3 innings, and Tim Hill 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. You did have Juan Soto get a home run, his third of the campaign that came off of Tyler McGill. That's really all the wrong that McGill did, giving up 2 runs in 5 innings. Bullpen had his back from there. Drew Smith, Adam Ottavino, both lend a scoreless inning, and David Robertson, Brooks Raley. They don't let this game go off the Rayleys as they combine for 2 scoreless innings. In 10 innings, the Miami Marlins get it done against the now 4-8 Philadelphia Phillies. Rough start for them, 3-2. The Miami Marlins get the W as Ode Soler is able to get home run number 4 of the season as Edward Cabrera, after he was just walking everyone in his first few starts of the season, he was able to lock it down. As a matter of fact, 14 walks in his first 11 2/3 innings of the season, but just 1 walk in 5 innings. He did allow 7 hits, but bend but don't break, as from there, AJ Puck is able to get a 2-inning, what should be saved, but turned out to be a win for him. Dylan Floro, Andrew Nardi, Tanner Scott, I'll give you a scoreless inning, and for the Philadelphia Phillies, solid pitching in this one. Zach Wheeler gives up a 1 run in 6 innings. You did have Jose Alvarado give up a 1 run in 1 1/3 innings, as going deep for the Miami Marlins, it was Ode Soler off of him for home run number 4, but from there, Gregory Soto gives up an unearned run in the 10th inning in 1 1/3 innings. Sir Anthony Dominguez, Craig Kimbrell, they both get a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but for the Philadelphia Phillies right now, bottom 3 team in the National League in terms of runs per game, that has really been hurting them. And what's been hurting the Reds is the inability to close out 1-run games. Another 1-run win for the Atlanta Braves by a count of 5-4, so in all 3 games of the series, the Braves, they won by approximately 1 run as Hunter Green went for the Cincinnati Reds, giving up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings, punched out 10. From there, Ian Gabot and Buck Farmer could not hold up their end of the bargain as getting a home run in the 8th to put the Atlanta Braves up for good. That would be Mr. Eddie Rosario, his first of the campaign, as Spencer Strider, not his best start. He did have 9 strikeouts in 5 innings, but did allow 3 runs. Bullpen from there held down the fort. Kirby Yates, AJ Minter, scoreless 8th and 9th innings, and Lucas Luetke gives up 1 run over the course of 2 innings, as for the Cincinnati Reds, they go 2 of 8 with men in scoring position. This game is not quite final, but it's going to be one that goes away. The Kansas City Royals doing this in the 8th inning. They are up by kind of 10-1, as for Brad Keller, very good start, 6 2/3 innings, giving up 1 run. That 1 run, a solo home run, as you had Mr. Nathaniel Lowe get a 2nd home run season, but Nathan Eovaldi got destroyed, giving up 6 runs in 5 innings. You had Taylor Hearn give up 4 runs in 2 innings, as for Eovaldi, he did serve up a jack, as you had Vinny Pasquantino get his 2nd home run of the campaign. This for a Royals team has really not been great in terms of their offense, so that's a game that is going to go over the total. And then you saw the Blue Jays in extra innings be able to claw out a 3-4 win in 10 innings against the Detroit Tigers. For Detroit, Eduardo Rodriguez, very good in the start, gives up 1 run over the course of 6 innings. Jason Foley, Alex Lang, they both give you scoreless innings, but Trey Wingenter gives up 2 runs and did not get a single out before Jason Shreve has to come in, go 1 1/3 innings, giving up that unearned run in the 10th inning that turned out to be the difference. And for the Tigers, they went 0 of 8 with men in scoring position. Kerry Carpenter did get his first home run season off of Kevin Gausman, and Gausman also allowed one to Nick Maton, his second home run season, as Gausman 8 innings, probably kept in there a little bit too long, giving up 2 home runs, did punch out 11, but gave up 3 runs in total before Jordan Romano, Tim Mesa, both lend a scoreless inning to be able to get the Blue Jays money line to the window, and then this team stays undefeated. The Rays are now 12-0. They have won 11 games by multiple runs, and they are now 8-3-1 to the over. The only team that's on par with them to the over is the Oakland A's at 8-3-1. As for the Rays, they get a 9-7 win over Boston, as Boston did get a home run off of Rafael Devers as he goes deep off of Colin Pooch for his 5th home run season for Pooch. Not a great outing here, giving up that home run in the 3rd of an inning as Ryan Thompson, he got charged for 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Was a bit of a shaky outing for that Rays bullpen after Taj Bradley gave up 3 runs in 5 innings. Jalen Beeks also gives up a run in an inning, but Jason Adams, Pete Fairbanks, they lend scoreless 8th and 9th innings, and Renzo Rosarena was able to go deep in this one. 3rd home run season. Rays, by the way, still have more home runs than runs allowed. That is insane, as Chris Sale, well, he sold this game, giving up 6 runs, 5 of which were earned, including that home run. Bullpen from there did an okay job. Zach Kelly gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning, but you had Ryan Brazier give 1 1/3 inning scoreless, John Schreiber scoreless inning, and Chris Martin, he gave up a run in an inning, as you did see the Oakland A's get a rare win over the Baltimore Orioles by a count of 8-4. So another over for Oakland, as he had a pair of home runs, as Brent Rooker was able to get his first home run season. Then you also got home run number 1 for Carlos Perez, as well as for Oakland. Ken Waldichuk gives up 3 runs in 6 1/3 innings. Jurisic Familia, Spanish for blown save, he gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning, but Chad Smith is able to lend 2 scoreless innings, and for Baltimore, just not a quality start here from Dean Kramer. He gives up those 2 home runs, 4 runs in total in 4 1/3 innings, and bullpen has been much worse this year for the Orioles than it was a season ago. Cionel Perez gives up 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings. Keegan Aiken gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Mike Baumann does lend 2 scoreless innings, and Logan Gillespie gets a pair of outs out of the bullpen. And for the Orioles, they did go 3 of 7 with men in scoring position, but they got barreled up in this one. And overall for the season, we have been seeing quite a few overs in Major League Baseball. As I mentioned, we did have a nice little run of unders on Wednesday, but you take a look overall for the season, it has still been very demonstrative to the over. As I do this right now with a pair of games pending for Wednesday, we have seen 94 overs to 78 unders. That is a 54.7% clip to the over. I'm sure that we've got a few pushes along the way as well. If my math is correct, I think we've got 7 on totals, but favorites have been doing very well on the money line. 113 and 65 straight up. That is 63.5% of games that are landing on the money line for favorites, but we've also seen favorites have a tough time being able to cover the run line. There have been 25 of these 113 wins in which favorites have won by approximately 1 run. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we all got on Wednesday. Now let's talk with our good friend Danny Vietti about the historic nature of this season, what we've seen out of the Tampa Bay Rays, what we've seen out of Jordan Walker, and some of the teams that are going to be on full display on Thursday. That's up next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Are you ready to become a winning sports bettor? Schedule a call with SBIA to find out how their service can make you a long-term winning player. They've developed an innovative algorithm that maximizes units return, and they are so confident in their system that they offer a money-back guarantee. Sign up by October 31st and get their MBA package at no cost until they reach 10 net units. They treat sports betting like a business. So if you want to learn how to make your sports betting dreams a reality, visit them at SBIA1.com and check them out on social media at SBIA Sports.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It is great to be joined by our guest as Danny Vietti does absolutely amazing work taking a look at this game that we all know and love of baseball. He is over there at CBS Sports. On top of that, he does a podcast of his own, the Wake Rake Podcast. You're able to find that wherever you get your podcast. He does that with a man that has won a World Series title before in Will Middlebrooks back. Well, he was with the Boston Red Sox, and Danny, he is an ace when it comes to taking a look at the game of baseball, and you're able to follow him on Twitter at his name, Danny Vietti. Last name is spelled Vietti, all together. And Danny, it is always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. And Danny, how have you been taking a look at these first 2 weeks of the season? Because I think that everything has been a net positive for baseball. I think that you joined me either on opening day or the day after opening day, and we were raving about how the pitch clock has helped things out. But I think that this has just been overall a better product with baseball. We've been seeing more small ball, which I find to be very refreshing. No doubt with the clocks, we have been finding these games getting done a little bit sooner, but all in all, it just feels like a little bit more of a pure game of baseball, sans those extra inning rules, which I still can't stand. But that said, I've been very intrigued by the game this year, and I've been very happy about what I've been seeing this year.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any complaints either in regards to players, coaches. The only rift that's occurred was really the Manny Machado ejection, and it really had nothing to do with the pitch clock rule. It had everything to do with the home plate umpire not granting Manny Machado timeout at the 8-second mark because he deemed that Machado was not alert to the pitcher. But the fan reaction, the ratings, the TV ratings across the regional networks have yet to be released. But the national TV ratings are promising. Attendance right now is up. That's to be expected the first couple weeks of the season. Obviously, you're going to sell out more ball games. I think we'll be able to get more of a perspective, during the summer months when a Wednesday 1 o'clock game in Kansas City, probably not going to sell out. But regardless, attendance right now is up over 29,000, near 30,000 actually. Last year, it was at 28,300. Average attendance across the league. So attendance is up. The ratings look good. And the feedback has been fantastic. I think people are really intrigued, if nothing else. So I think right now, baseball's in a really good spot. The players are for it. The fans certainly seem to be for it, and it's trending in the right direction.
Things are trending in the right direction, and along with the gameplay itself, we've had a lot of nice storylines to begin the season, and the best of them has been this hot start for the Tampa Bay Rays. As we are recording this, we don't know how their game on Wednesday went, but they got up 3-0 the first inning against the Boston Red Sox. Looks like they're going to be on their way to domination once again, because that's just what the Tampa Bay Rays do, and they're either going to be 11-1 or 12-0 at the time of this podcast. And this has just been a great story because with the Tampa Bay Rays, no question, they benefited from a very easy schedule to begin the season, playing against the Washington Nationals. You play against the Detroit Tigers and the Oakland A's. You should be able to get quite a few wins there. But for them to just do what they've done, completely dominate every single night, aside from that 1-0 game against the Boston Red Sox, it has been remarkable to see the way that they've started off the season.
Yeah, I was just talking this over with a few coworkers, actually, and their run differential through their first 10 games this year, it's over 50. That run differential is the most through the first 10 games of a season since 1884. And to put that into perspective and a little bit of context, Babe Ruth was not even born in 1884. So it's been quite a while since we've seen a team dominate with this much firepower through the first 10 games of the season. They're doing it in every facet possible. Like, at this point, there's nothing to critique about this team. Jeffrey Springs hasn't allowed a run this year. McClanahan was dominant against Boston on Tuesday night. Everybody 1 through 9, you could probably go down even to their bench players, are crushing baseballs. They lead the league in homers. They've hit more home runs than they've allowed runs scored. Not home runs, runs scored. Paredes, Rosarena, Brendan Lau is healthy. Wander Franco looks like an MVP candidate. This team's deep. As long as this team can stay healthy, they're going to be right in the thick of things, not just in the playoff race, but World Series as well. I'm not meaning to say that because you don't want to overreact through 2 weeks of a season, but we knew the talent that this team possessed coming into the season. Now they're healthy, and we'll have to see what transpires across a 162-game season. But right now, this team looks dominant. We expected them to be very, very good, and they're exceeding those expectations.
Oh, yes, they certainly are, and I do think that they are not going to go 162-0 or anything like that. Let's not get that carried away, but it has been a remarkable start to the season for them. But another remarkable start is what we're seeing with a rookie as well. As joining me on the podcast, we do have Danny Vietti. He does amazing work over at CBS Sports and the Wake Rake Podcast. And Jordan Walker, the young 20-year-old, he has gotten a hit in every single one of his games to begin his MLB career. It is absolutely magnificent. I think that among guys that are 21 years or younger, this has been either the longest or the second longest streak that we've ever seen. He was able to get a hit on Wednesday to be able to send that to 12 straight. And I do take a look at the Cardinals, even though they're 5-7. I felt like they were able to get up off the mat thanks to the errors that the Colorado Rockies had on Tuesday into Wednesday. So they got a little bit of help there. But I think that that's exactly what the Cardinals needed. And despite their slow start, they're a team that I think is going to be right in the thick of things as well. And I do think that the Cardinals are showing their might with having one of the best offenses in the big leagues. Question is just being able to shore up the back end of that rotation.
Yeah, Jordan Walker's really been one of the few positives for the start for St. Louis. You just mentioned the streak the hit streak going on 111 years. So it's been more than a century since we've seen a rookie under 20 years old have this great of a start, which is pretty impressive. On the flip side, the Cardinals are off to a 5-7 start. Fortunately, they just won the series against Colorado, but as we all know, Colorado is not expected to be a contender this year. They had the disagreement between Tyler O'Neill and Ollie Marmol, their manager, publicly benched Tyler O'Neill, which was questionable to say the least, because if you're going to bench a player, what is the incentive of making that public? And Tyler O'Neill expressed that as well in his post-game interview, basically saying, I think this could have been handled differently. The start for St. Louis, and in comparing that too with the rest of the division, the Cubs look much more improved this year than they were last year. Milwaukee, a lot of people like myself expected them to kind of take a step back this year. They're off to a hot start at 8-4. The slow and tenuous start with St. Louis combined with the teams in their division who look better, it wasn't looking great for the first week and a half, and frankly still isn't looking great for St. Louis right now. They're going to have to turn things around pretty soon because, like we just mentioned, Milwaukee, Chicago, even Pittsburgh is winning games. So you don't want to find yourself 2 months down the road saying, well, we'll turn the corner here eventually. You want to start kicking things into gear as soon as possible. So not a great start for St. Louis. I still believe in their talent. And Jordan Walker is a great example of the talent that they do possess.
And that offense, it still has been rock solid this year. It's really been the back-end pitching, guys like Steven Matz and company, that they are really going to need to pick it up for this team to be able to ascend. As joining me on the podcast, we do have Danny Vietti. He does amazing work over at CBS Sports. And what I find to be very fascinating as well to start out the year, because we always have anomalies. We always have oddities that happen in Major League Baseball, like the Pirates at 7-5 taking on the Cardinals at 5-7 on Thursday. That's one of them, but we all remember how much we destroyed the Milwaukee Brewers for that trade of Josh Hader, and I still think that was a terrible trade. We're actually going to be seeing these two teams go at it on Thursday, which I think that is going to be a lot of fun. The Brewers and the Padres have actually made quite a few deals over the last few years. The Eric Lauer for Trent Grisham swap comes to mind as well, but the Brewers actually entered into Wednesday with the best ERA in the bullpen in the big leagues thus far this season. You did mention that they are 8-4 as we are recording this, so we have no idea who they are going to be starting. What are your expectations for the Brewers moving forward? Because I do like the fact that they got off to that 8-3, now 8-4 start, but I really don't think that it is sustainable for this team, as I honestly think that the bullpen's okay, but I take a look at the young inning, still have some question marks. I think that this is more of a product of a hot start rather than something that's sustainable.
Yeah, I think Milwaukee was kind of hoping to have Aaron Ashby, their hybrid bullpen / spot starter to have in this type of situation. Of course, he's dealing with significant shoulder injury that is causing him to miss the entire season. That would have been nice to have if you're Milwaukee. It's really been the young players from Milwaukee that has turned heads early on. Guys like Bryce Terang, Garrett Mitchell out in center field. These are guys that Milwaukee were hoping to develop over time, but I don't think anybody really expected them to get off to this hot of a start. Personally, other guys like Brian Anderson, I've always been a huge fan of. I really like the tools that he had in Miami. I always felt like if he had better protection around him, he could be a really nice player for a good, solid lineup and good, solid team. And Anderson, through the first 10 games of the year, had an OPS of up over 1,400, I think it was. So he's just crushing baseballs. The real question comes with Milwaukee. It's not the pitching staff at all. You trust your Freddie Peraltas, Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, without a doubt. It's really just if that offense can sustain that throughout an entire season. You see a lot of streakiness when it comes to young players, and this Milwaukee lineup does have a lot of youth to it. So it's early. They've gotten off to a good start, and they deserve praise for that. But, of course, this is one of those teams that you just want to see over a longer term to really get an idea of what they're going to be.
I agree with you there, and I do think that that is going to be very much of fascination. And this is also going to be interesting because one of the teams I thought was going to be a contender for the World Series, I still firmly think that they are going to be, that is the Toronto Blue Jays. They are going to be taking on the Detroit Tigers on Thursday. And what I think is a big trepidation for the Blue Jays is sort of their back-end starters, because I take a look at all that they've got right now. And when I viewed Chris Bassitt up close and in person against the Los Angeles Angels last week, he didn't necessarily look comfortable out there on the mound. It's been just 2 starts, but he's been a little bit shaky. And then you've got Yusei Kikuchi and Jose Barrios, who are currently getting starts for the Toronto Blue Jays. I think that this is one of the best offenses in the league, but I do have some trepidations with the Blue Jays because I think that they've got potential to be able to make a lot of noise in the American League. No doubt I've been warmer on the Tampa Bay Rays, who they are going to be facing off against over the weekend. That's going to be a big test for them. But for the Blue Jays, I have to wonder if they're going to be looking at picking up some pitching at the deadline or perhaps before then, because I think that if they don't, there is a fear that they could let the season slip away from them a little bit, because I haven't liked what I've seen out of Bassitt. And then the 2 guys I mentioned, Kikuchi and Barrios, that they picked up in recent years, just have not worked out.
I don't want to overreact to Toronto, especially their starting staff. That was a big question for Toronto all of last season, was the back end of their rotation, because the top 2 to 3 guys with Manoah and Gausman, without a doubt, very, very strong. And then after that, it's like, what does Jose Barrios have left in the tank anymore? And then is Yusei Kikuchi, like, he was an all-star 2 years ago, but was that really just a fluke season? And then Chris Bassitt, the struggles that he has had, the only concern I have with him is really the velocity. We've seen the velocity take 1 to 2 ticks down on his sinker. That could be significant, especially a guy that just signed a long-term contract with Toronto. But Toronto did a really nice job this offseason. In my opinion, they had one of the stronger off seasons in regards to not necessarily acquiring star power, but acquiring and addressing team needs. And that was outfield defense, which they were very middle to back of the pack in last season. And they were able to fill that void with Dalton Varsho, who led all MLB outfielders and outs above average last year. And then they also picked up Kevin Kiermaier, who we just saw take away a home run in a magical play on Tuesday night. They addressed their defense in the outfield. And then they also, like we just mentioned, they had a need in the back end of that rotation. They did that with Chris Bassitt. Not a great start for Bassitt, but his resume tells us that he's going to turn it around. So I'm not worried. I'm not sounding the alarm on Toronto. I think they're plenty talented enough. They're going to be there at the end of the season without a doubt, competing for, if not a playoff spot, a World Series spot. They're that talented. They have that kind of offense. And I think they possess that kind of depth this year too.
And I do think that for the Blue Jays, this is one of the best lineups in all of baseball. And the bullpen, I feel like, is a little bit under the radar as well. Should be interesting to see if they add a little bit of pitching moving forward. As Danny Vietti, who does a great job over at the Wake Rake Podcast, is joining me on the podcast. And Danny, we've talked about some of the big headlines that we've seen the first 2 or so weeks of the season. Has there been a team or a player that you feel like deserves a little bit more love than they have gotten thus far? Because we've talked about some of the big headliners with the Rays, Jordan Walker, what have you, but has there been something that's standing out to you that maybe we haven't talked about in this conversation and deserves a little bit more love?
I mean, Pablo Lopez looks fantastic for Minnesota. Both sides of that trade. It was the Luis Arraez for Pablo Lopez trade between Minnesota and Miami. What has Arraez done? Well, he just hit for the first cycle in Miami Marlins franchise history. And he's also hitting .530 on the season. That's not misspoken. He's actually hitting .530 on the air. He's just a contact machine. Lopez, Minnesota has been looking for a guy to be able to pitch deep in the ball games. They don't really trust Sonny Gray to go 3 times through the order. They haven't trusted Joe Ryan to go 3 times through the order. I think they finally found their guy to be able to pitch into the 7th and 8th innings potentially with Pablo Lopez. So that's been a very good sign to see for Minnesota.
And with Pablo Lopez, you always knew that he had the potential, but being on that Marlins team, he wasn't able to get the wins that he deserved. And for Minnesota, Sonny Gray has looked really good as well. So I like the way that they have been hurling, but a man that is an ace and a man that is always doing an amazing job, firing all cylinders. That'd be you, Danny. You do a tremendous job with your own podcast, Wake Rake Podcast, which people can always find wherever they get their podcasts. I know you're doing amazing work with CBS Sports as well, so let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
No, I appreciate it. We'll have a blind resume episode coming out on the Wake Rake Podcast next week. We just came out with the biggest takeaways from the first couple of weeks, but you can follow all that at Wake Rake Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and whatever audio platforms you listen to.
Danny does an incredible job there. He and Will Middlebrooks do an incredible job with that podcast. I encourage you to add that to your list of baseball podcasts. And Danny, every single time he joins this podcast, lends incredible insights, much like he did today. Big thanks to Danny for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming up next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Thursday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It is always great to be joined by our good friend Danny Vietti, who does amazing work over at CBS Sports, along with the Rake Rake Podcast, which you're able to find wherever you get your podcast. He, day in and day out, does an amazing job taking a look at the great game of baseball. Every single time he joins his podcast, lends great insights, and much like myself, out here chilling on the West Coast. So, big thanks to him for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. They give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Thursday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter feed at GN_41. Going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, the American League games are after that. If we would have interleague games, those would be at the bottom. We do not have any, so let's get things started with 9:51, 9:52 on the betting board. It is the Philadelphia Phillies on the road against the Cincinnati Reds. Yes, we are into Cincinnati, and they're on to Nick Lodolo getting the start for them, and Bailey Falter hopes to not live up to his name for the Philadelphia Phillies. Anywhere between -115 and -125. Your number on the Reds. You're getting the Philadelphia Phillies anywhere between +105 and +110. 8.5 is the total. Unders between -110 and -120. Overs between even and -110. And I said Lodolo and company and a -126. I'm going to be willing to take the Reds on the money line. These two guys actually matched up about a week or so ago. That was a game in which the Philadelphia Phillies won by a count of 3-2, but that's because the Phillies were able to manufacture 3 runs in the 9th inning. Nick Lodolo was very good. 12 punch-outs in 7 scoreless innings, and I really do like what I'm seeing out of him. And Bailey Falter hasn't been horrible either. I just think that there's going to be a fall-off here. He's got 5 strikeouts in 10 and a third innings thus far. He had good command last year as well, as he has yet to give out a walk this season. In 2022, more on 2.5 walks per 9 innings, but he gives up a lot of contact in general. Opponents are getting 275 off of him, so I think that that's going to be a little bit of a bugaboo. He does go up against a Reds team that doesn't necessarily have a lot of power. You don't have a single guy that returns from last year that had north of 12 home runs, but Jason Vossler has already gotten 3 home runs for this team. You've had a pair of guys in TJ Friedl, Spencer Steer, both be able to go deep twice thus far this season, as both of those guys, Friedl and Steer, both have been able to hit above a 3 iron this year for the Reds. They do an okay job of being able to draw some walks as well. Jonathan India at the leadoff spot north of a 400 on base, so I like what I'm seeing there, though Will Myers, he is not doing his part. Meanwhile, for the Philadelphia Phillies, the offense has just been rough in general. His team has been able to exceed the 4-run plateau in just 2 games thus far in the month of April, so they are not getting things going. You've got Kyle Schwarber with a trio of home runs, but he's hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. Alec Boehm, Trey Turner, Bryson Stott, they're getting on base, and Stott is hitting above a 400, obviously. That'll come back to earth, and Brandon Marsh, like what I've seen out of him. Slow start for JT Realmuto. I think that he's going to be able to pick it up, but when you're having start guys like Jake Cave and company, because Derek Hall is out with an injury, Bryce Harper is banged up, Rhys Hoskins is out for the entirety of the season, that's not where you want to be. And for the Phillies, they entered into the week in the bottom 5 in the league in terms of bullpen ERA, and there's not much reason to think that they're going to be tremendous this year. I do think that Gregory Soto is going to be able to pick it up a little bit more. Sir Anthony Dominguez, they've had a little bit of a tough start to the season. Jose Alvarado's been pretty solid, but when you pick up Craig Kimbrell, you know what you're getting with that schlub, so it's not too terrific. Meanwhile, for the Reds, you've got Fernando Cruz along with Alexis Diaz. Both of these guys had a sub-2 ERA in the bullpen last season. Now, when you go to guys like Ian Gilboa and company, it's not necessarily too great. Kevin Erget, he has been a little bit rough, but I do think that you're going to be able to get a nice start out of Nick Lodolo, and I do think that Bailey Falter going to live up to that name. He doesn't give out walks, but he gives up a lot of contact. This is a very hitter-friendly ballpark out there in Cincinnati as well. Even though it's in the month of April, I do think that the Reds are going to be able to get on Falter, and I do think that they're going to be able to get it done and perhaps get to 5+ runs. So semi-total at an 8.7 here and an 8.5. Looking at the over, and with the Reds, made them a -126 on the money line. So looking Reds and looking over, 953, 954 on the betting board. The St. Louis Cardinals are playing host to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Vince Velasquez goes for the Buccos, and Jordan Montgomery is on the bump for the Cardinals. Cardinals between minus 210 to minus 215 favorites, and between plus 180 and plus 195 your number on the Pirates. The run line of the Cardinals, seeing that at a minus 110 if you're looking to lay a run and a half. 8 to 8.5 is the total on the 8.5. Under is minus 120 and the over is even on the 8. Over is minus 120 and the under is even, and I did set my total at an 8.6. So whether you got an 8 or an 8.5, I'm going to be taking a look at the over, and a big reason why I am taking a look at this total over is because you've got Vince Velasquez on the mound, and this guy has been just so untrustworthy throughout the entirety of his career. This guy just has not been able to get online. He's made 2 starts this year, and in 7 1/3 innings, he's given up 8 runs, 5 walks, 2 home runs. That's just the story of Vinny Velo's career, and he's able to get some swings and misses, but his command is all over the place. When he gives up contact, it goes a very long ways. I have no idea why another team is giving him an opportunity, but they are, so take advantage while you can and just fade him. Meanwhile, Jordan Montgomery, ever since he has gotten to the St. Louis Cardinals, he's been able to do a rock-solid job with this organization, as his ERA is sub-3. He's never been one that has had bad command. He had right around 2 walks per 9 innings last season, so I think that he's going to be able to continue on with that. And you take a look at his swing and miss stuff, it's been good. 12 strikeouts in 12 innings. He's given up 3 runs over the course of his 12 innings, and the team has won both of his starts. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, they got back online with their offense in Coors Field, which you always do like to see. Now, going from elevation back to sea level, that is a little bit tough, but I do think that these guys are equipped to be able to do so, because you got a guy, Nolan Arenado, that had to do so for so many years. And you take a look at Jordan Walker, Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, all with at least 15 hits apiece. All these guys hitting at least a 319 thus far. They haven't necessarily gotten online with regards to power, but Nolan Gorman has a home run in back-to-back games. He's had 4 bombs this year. He's hitting above a 300. Alec Burleson is hitting at 300. They've been dealing with injuries to Dylan Carlson, Lars Nootbaar, but this team is one of the best offenses in all of baseball. Meanwhile, for the Pittsburgh Pirates, it's a nice 7-5 start. I feel like this is a little bit of an aberration. I like Brian Reynolds hitting a 347, 5 home runs, but with Oniel Cruz out of the fold, who's going to provide him with protection? Andrew McCutcheon's hitting above a 300. I fear that he's going to wear down as the season goes along. I do like Connor Joe. He's rock solid, but then you've got Brian Hayes, G-Man Choi, Jack Wisniewski, all hitting below a $1.60 right now. For the Pirates, you've really got 2 bullpen pieces. Chase Young, David Bednar, both of these guys had a sub-3.5 ERA last season. But then past that, when you get into guys like Rob Zanarski and company, there's just not a lot of faith that you can have in those guys. Meanwhile, for the St. Louis Cardinals, Ryan Helsley has been a little bit all over the place since the back half of last season, but I do like Genesis Cabrera. If you need a little bit more of a long guy like a Ryan Thompson, these guys are able to deliver as well. And more than anything else, I just have zero faith here in Vince Velasquez. He has been a failure just time and time again. A little bit more of a pitcher-friendly ballpark in St. Louis, but I do think that the Cardinals have one of the best offenses in all of baseball, and they get to face Vinny Velo. So set my total at an 8.6, at an 8 or an 8.5, looking at the over. In terms of the run line of the Cardinals, set it at a minus 112, seeing it at a minus 110. I'm going to be willing to lay that run line, and I'm going to be taking a look at the total over as well. 955, 956 on the betting board, and this is going to be the DK Nation write-up. The Milwaukee Brewers set the road face-off against the San Diego Padres. Nick Martinez is going to be going for the Pods, and for the Milwaukee Brewers, it was going to be one of our good friends in Eric Lauer, looking like it's going to be Bryce Wilson right now. And when it was supposed to be Lauer versus Martinez, we were seeing a total of 8.5, with the over having just anywhere between minus 115 to minus 120. The under is anywhere between even a minus 105 with the Padres. They were anywhere between minus 140 and minus 145. Brewers were between plus 125 and plus 130. No doubt these numbers are going to be moving quite a bit. Total is not going to be going downward, with it most likely being Bryce Wilson, unless if they have the second reincarnation of Bob Gibson or something like that. You're going to be seeing this total be at minimum an 8.5, and my write-up that is going to be on the under, because I do think that Bryce Wilson is going to get the start, and Bryce Wilson, frankly, he's not too terrific for the Milwaukee Brewers. We're going to call it what it is. They've been utilizing him as a little bit more of a long guy this season. That is part of the angle as well, because with Wilson, he's made 3 appearances this year. He's won 6 total innings, and he has yet to give up a run. I do think that there's going to be a little bit of regression with that regard, but it does seem as though he has been able to do a little bit of a better job with his swing and miss stuff. He was a regular starter with the Pittsburgh Pirates last season, and while he was with the Pittsburgh Pirates and spent a little bit of time with the Atlanta Braves as well, He had more around a 5.52 ERA. Now, good news for him, the swing and miss stuff seems to be up, and really the big bugaboo that Bryce Wilson had as a starter last year was giving up the deep ball. He was giving up about 1.6, 1.7 home runs per 9 innings. I think that actually gets rectified being out here in San Diego. You'll notice that the Padres, they always are a significantly worse offensive team at home rather than on the road. 3.7 runs per game at home last season, 4.9 on the road last season, so a top 5 offense on the road last season in terms of runs per game, a bottom 5 at home. So I think that is very big to take a look at Petco Park. It is very pitcher friendly, and it is going to be a case where I do think that Nick Martinez is going to be able to have a relatively solid start. First 2 starts of the year, he did allow a combined 8 runs over the course of 11 2/3 innings. One of those starts came against Colorado before home and road splits really took hold for them. Other one was going on the road against the Atlanta Braves, and I do think that he's going to be able to lock it in a little bit more. Does need to address the walks since he's gotten to San Diego, right around 3.7 walks per 9 innings, about a 3.74 ERA, but relatively good swing and miss stuff. Going up against a Brewers bunch that they've been getting most of their offense when they've been at home, right around 3.7 to 3.8 runs per game on the road, 6 runs per game at home with the Milwaukee Brewers. They are starting quite a few young guys like Garrett Mitchell, Bryce Terang, throwing their Joey Weimer. These are all guys that are really in their rookie year, and they have been very inconsistent on the road. Christian Yelich with 1 home run, hitting about a 245 right now. You just expect so much more for the money paid to him. Now, Brian Anderson has come in and has actually been relatively solid for this team. He's been able to supply a trio of home runs. He's been able to do a good job moving the line, hitting at 286. But for the Milwaukee Brewers entering into yesterday on the road, they were hitting about a 220 as a collective. Most of these hits are coming at home. You've got a little bit of an all-or-nothing team, and with having the fences just a little bit harder to be able to go over in San Diego during the nighttime, that's going to be hurting them quite a bit. Like Rowdy Tellez last year hit a 225, so that's a bit of an issue. And then you've got a San Diego Padres team that, let's talk about it. Juan Soto has just not been terrific the last few seasons. He's hitting a 217 right now. He's been able to give the team a trio of homers, but just expect a little bit more for the money that's been paid. Manny Machado has yet to go deep this year. Now, you do expect him to fully get online. And Xander Bogaerts, he's been paying off in droves, hitting at 327, 4 home runs. Former Milwaukee Brewer Trent Grisham, trio of home runs, but hitting a $196. The entire catcher spot has been a little bit of a hot mess for this team as well. And for the Padres, they do have a bullpen that has been okay this year. Josh Hader has been absolutely terrific. It's all about being able to lock it in with more of the other guys. I do like Steven Wilson, sub-3 ERA last season, about Crispet. He has been all over the place this season. I liked what I saw from him last year where he had a 2.94 ERA. I do think that he's going to be able to pick up the slack a little bit. I do think that Luis Garcia is going to be rounding back into form, but the reason why I do like this total under, I was mentioning the fact that Bryce Wilson is not a great starter, and that should get him out of this game relatively early. The Brewers' bullpen is currently number 1 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. You've got so many trustworthy guys like Joel Payamps, Holby Milner, Peter Strzelski. All these guys had a sub-3.3 ERA last season. Devin Williams is someone that is able to supply you with a sub-2 ERA. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, though they had to throw out their Jansen Junk yesterday, it's not like they threw out their super-duper trustworthy guys or anything like that. So the Milwaukee Brewers bullpen, it is going to be on call in this game. And if you do essentially get a Milwaukee Brewers bullpen game, that is something that I really do like with this total. Assuming that we get Bryce Wilson, I'm setting my total at an 8. So my DK Nation write-up, that is going to be on the under. Now with regards to a revamped money line, assuming that you do get Bryce Wilson against Nick Martinez, anything above about a plus 123. I said it officially at a plus 123. I'd be willing to lay a run at half with the Padres. With the Padres, made them a minus 171 favorite, so we need at least a plus 172 to take a shot on the Brewers on the money line. 957, 958 on the betting board. The Oakland A's hit the road face-off against the Baltimore Orioles. Adam Uller is going to be going for the A's, and you've got Cole Irvin on the bump for the Orioles. Right now, only seeing a number up at DraftKings. Total is 9.5, over is minus 115. The under is minus 105, with Baltimore minus 210 favorites, plus 180 on Oakland, with the run line being a minus 105 with Baltimore laying that small run line number. And I set the Orioles run line at a minus 129, and I need at least a plus 230 to take a shot on the Oakland A's. So I'm going to be looking at Baltimore in this ordeal. Now, Cole Irvin going up against his former team, but there aren't a lot of guys that are still remaining from the beginning part of last season with the Oakland A's, so not a lot of familiarity there. But I will say, for Cole Irvin, he just has not been good when pitching away from Oakland last 2 seasons. In 2022, in Oakland, he had a 3.07 ERA with 6 home runs allowed in 105 2/3 innings. on the road that season, 75 and a third innings, 19 home runs allowed with a 5.26 ERA, and it's been rough for him to start the season. First two starts, 8 2/3 innings. He's allowed 1 home run, given up 12 hits with a 9.35 ERA, but he is going up against someone in Adam Oller that, just quite frankly, I don't think that he's worthy of being a major league pitcher. At this point, he's been sort of utilized as a super guy, as he sometimes starts, he sometimes comes out of the bullpen, but in his 2 years at the big league level, a 6.11 ERA. He's someone that just doesn't give you a lot of swings and misses, right around 5.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, while giving up north of 4.5 walks per 9 innings. The hard contact is certainly there, as well as his home runs per 9 rate. That is hovering right in the neighborhood of about 2. Not a lot of redeeming qualities. Now, I will say, if he's able to give you a few okay innings, this is not the world's worst bullpen, as you've got Zach Jackson, Denny Jimenez, Sam Maul. These are all guys that had a sub-3.5 ERA in the bullpen last season. Jurcic Familia's out looked awful, though. It is still Jurcic Familia. With the Oakland A's, the big trepidation that you have is whether or not this team is going to be able to score runs out. To their credit, they have been able to get to 4+ runs each out of the last 2 days, as you've been able to get something out of Vermon Laureano and Brent Rooker, as they're both hitting above a 235, and Rooker was able to go deep yesterday for the team, but you got Mendes, Diaz, someone like a Ryan Noda, Kevin Smith. You're able to go down the list of guys hitting at 225 or lower for the team. And for the Baltimore Orioles, the team is ripping the cover off the ball. Adley Rushman is hitting north of a 360 thus far. Ryan Mountcastle is off to a great start, had 5 home runs entering into the game yesterday. Anthony Santander has been a little bit out of form, along with Gunnar Henderson. Both of these guys hitting below a 225, but you've got guys that do a good job of moving the line. Ode Mateo, along with Cedric Mullins, two of the best base stealers in all of baseball. Austin Say's kid is hitting above 300. And for Baltimore, you tell that the bullpen had a little bit of a funk towards the second half of the season last year, and trading away Ode Lopez, that was rough, but you still have someone like Cassiano Perez, who had a sub-3.3 ERA last year. Felix Bautista, he's been able to do a masterful job. He is one of the best closers in the big leagues. They did have to use up Mike Baumann, Keegan Aiken, more long guys yesterday, so I do think that there's going to be runs aplenty in this game. So I told at 9.7, so you're at 9.5, looking at the over, but I think that the Orioles put a hurting on Adam Oller. I do think that the Oakland A's going to be able to get some offense on Cole Irvin, but I certainly do think that Oller is a guy that gets hit a little bit harder in this spot. So looking at that Orioles run line and taking a look at the 9.5 over, 959, 960 on the betting board, it is the Tampa Bay Rays. They play out to the Boston Red Sox. The Kalubot, Corey Kluber, is going to be going for Boston, and Jeffrey Springs is on the bump for the Rays. The Rays open up as a minus 150 favorite. This has went to the moon. It's anywhere between minus 180 and minus 195. Meanwhile, for the Boston Red Sox, it's anywhere between plus 160, seeing as high as a plus 172, and I needed at least a plus 174 to take a shot on the Red Sox, but with the way that this thing is going, I think that we're going to see more money come in on the Red Sox, which would make it a little bit more of a play for me, though I will say, with the Tampa Bay Rays, still seeing a plus 115 run line out there, and if you are able to get that, and if that's available in the AM, I'd be willing to take that, but I think when it's all said and done, this is going to be just priced to the Tampa Bay Rays being a Mondo favorite. They're going to be entering into this game 12-0. The Tampa Bay Rays, as we were talking about with Danny Vietti, they have been just the monsters at this point in all of baseball. So many guys, they're just completely ripping the cover off the ball. Randy Arozarena, Isaac Paredes, Yandy Diaz, Brandon Lau, Wander Franco, along with Josh Lowe. Each of their top 6 players in terms of total at-bats all entered into yesterday hitting above a 300. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous what we are seeing right now. But for Boston, they do have a relatively solid offense of their own. Justin Turner has been a little bit rough coming out of the gates, along with Kike Hernandez and Tristan Casas. Casas and Kike Hernandez both hitting below the Mendoza line of 200, but Bobby Dahlbeck is back. He's been able to do a nice job moving the line. Alex Verdugo is sitting right around a 350. You've gotten really good production out of Adam Duvall as well, sitting well north of a 300. He's been able to give the team 4 home runs. Remy Tapia is someone that I liked coming over from Toronto as well. And for the Boston Red Sox, the big key for them is that they did use up more of their less than trustworthy guys out of the bullpen yesterday. Chris Sale was only able to give 4 innings. He looked like a big giant turd out there. So they used up Zach Kelly. They used up Ryan Brazier. I recognize that Kenley Jansen is not the world's greatest reliever, but I would trust in him over someone like a Caleb Ort, for instance. Chris Martin was able to have a nice season with the LA Dodgers. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, they did have to dive into their bullpen as well. They were able to get 5 innings out of Taj Bradley, but they did have to use up guys like Jalen Beeks, Ryan Thompson, yesterday as well. This is still a very good bullpen with guys like Pete Fairbanks, Jason Adam. You're able to go down the list. They're able to do a solid job. But I do think that Corey Kluber, with him being familiar with the Tampa Bay Rays, being on the roster last season, I think that they could help him a little bit in this spot because nobody else has been able to slow down the Tampa Bay Rays this season. He actually knows them. He's a wily veteran at age 37, and he does a good job with his command. Fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings last season. Now, I will say he has been giving up quite a bit of hard contact over the last 2 seasons. His home runs per 9 rate in the neighborhood about 1.7. He's already given up 3 home runs thus far this season. Swing and miss stuff, it is down. He's getting fewer than 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings past 2 seasons, but he's going up against someone in Jeffrey Springs who's been lights out to begin the season. He's allowed 3 hits over the course of 13 scoreless innings thus far this season. He has, though, faced off against lesser competition in the Oakland A's and the Detroit Tigers, the Boston Red Sox, and it's a little bit of a different animal. And I will say for Jeffrey Springs, has always had success in Tampa Bay, 2.23 home ERA to a 2.65 ERA on the road. I do think that the Rays can be slowed down a little bit more with regards to their offense. So I did set my total at 7.9. Here at an 8, I'm going to be taking a look at the under. I do think that if you get north of a plus 175, and money is right now pouring in on the Tampa Bay Rays. Right now, it's not in my strike zone for the Boston Red Sox. I fully expect this in the AM to be in that range of about a plus 175 or greater that I need to take the Boston Red Sox. I'll be looking there to go along with this 8 under, 961, 962 on the betting board. The New York Yankees, they're going to be playing us to the Minnesota Twins. As Joe Ryan goes for the Twins, Johnny Brito is going to be on the bump for the Yankees. And the Yankees between minus 130 to minus 140 favorites, say between plus 115 and plus 126 is your number on Minnesota. 8.5 to 8 is your total on the 8. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105 on the 8.5. Under is minus 115. And the over is minus 105. And for the Yankees, made them a minus 142 favorite. Not willing to lay really anything more than what I'm seeing right now, but I am willing to lay this number with the New York Yankees with Johnny Brito. I really liked what I saw from him at the minor league level last season, as he didn't really get a lot of strikeouts, but he gave up only about 0.6 home runs per 9 innings, fewer than 2.5 walks per 9 innings, and he's duplicated that here in the major leagues. He has given up 3 walks in 10 innings, 8 strikeouts in those 10 innings while allowing 1 run. He is a bend but don't break pitcher, and I like these sort of guys. I think that he's got a lot of upside, and he's backed up by a relatively solid bullpen. Clay Holmes, he's a little bit of a roll of the dice, has been shaky since the back half of last season, but Albert Abreu has done a nice job holding down the fort. Ron Marinaccio along with Wandy Peralta, both of these guys were very rock solid last season, and for Marinaccio in 2+ seasons with the Yankees, he's got right around about a 2 ERA. Ian Hamilton, I think, is someone that is going to be able to provide this team a little bit of upside moving forward as well. As a matter of fact, he is a former Minnesota Twin that seems to be coming into his own. And for the Minnesota Twins, I do like this bullpen as well, as you've got Yohan Duran, who's able to throw 100+ miles per hour. Ode Lopez is very solid. Griffin Jackson is able to give you a little bit of length as well. But you do have someone in Joe Ryan that has been very shaky on the road in recent seasons. You take a look at what he did during the 2022 campaign, a 4.22 ERA, allowing right around 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. His command is okay, right around about 2.8, 2.9 walks per 9 innings. He gets strikeouts, about 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings over the past 2 seasons, but I do think that the Yankees are going to be able to get to him. It's a little bit cooler in the northeast part of the country this time of year, but you do have all sorts of matchups for the Yankees with Franchi Cordero tied with Aaron Judge for the most home runs on the team with 4. You expect Aaron Judge to have 4 home runs. Franchi Cordero, not so much, but the team is doing a much better job of getting on base this year than they did last year, as you've got Oswaldo Cabrera, Giancarlo Stanton, Anthony Rizzo, all hitting at least a 275. Stanton last year was hitting right around 230 along with Rizzo, so that's been very nice to see. DJ LeMahieu, he's only hitting about a 265 with 1 home run. You've got to expect that he's going to pick that up a little bit. Gleyber Torres, north of a 500 on base. He's been able to do a tremendous job. And for the Minnesota Twins, not a team with a lot of firepower in terms of going deep. Joey Gallo has 3 home runs this year, but we all know that he either gets a home run or he gets a strikeout. There's no in between with him. But Byron Buxton is hitting a 300 after last year. He just wasn't moving the line, but was hitting for a lot of power. Don Vincelano, he's hitting a 333. Losing Luis Arias does take away a good table setter for the team, but Trevor Larnach, nearly a 400 on base as well. So I do think that the New York Yankees are going to be able to get to Joe Ryan. I do think that the Twins are going to move the line and play some small ball on Brito. So I did set my total at 8.7. I'm looking at the over in this spot. And with the Yankees, set them as a minus 142 favorite on the money line. So getting this between minus 132 and minus 140. Looking at the Yankees, I'm looking at this total over. And we wrap things up with 963, 964 on the betting board. The Detroit Tigers hit the road face off against the Toronto Blue Jays. Chris Bassett has the hook, line, and sinker for the Jays, and Spencer Turnbull is on the bump for Detroit. 9 is the total. Overs between -115 and -125. The unders ending between -105 and +105, with the Blue Jays being between a -210 to a -220 favorite, and you got between +180 and +190 on the Detroit Tigers run line of the Toronto Blue Jays. Between -110 to a -115 was one to lay up to a -130. I got to see Chris Bassett up close and in person in his start against the LA Angels last week. He didn't necessarily look too comfortable with the pitch clock, but I can tell you in watching Spencer Turnbull starts, not in person but on TV, he doesn't look comfortable with it either, and I just have absolutely no faith whatsoever here in our good friend Mr. Spencer Turnbull, as his first 2 starts of the season, first 2 starts since the 2021 campaign. He missed all of last year due to Tommy John surgery. He has just looked terrible, giving up 12 runs over the course of 8 innings. He's not necessarily giving up the deep ball, and he never really has given up a lot of home runs. You even go back to just his career numbers, about 0.6, 0.7 home runs per 9 innings throughout his career, but you go back to the last full season that he really had during the 2020 campaign when he was able to pitch 11 starts. As we know, that was the shortened 2020 campaign. He had a 5.72 road ERA. He gave up just 2 home runs in 28 and a third innings, but his walks per 9 rate that season was right around 4.5. He doesn't have a lot of command. He doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. The only thing he really does is keep the ball in the yard, but now you have to face off against the Toronto Blue Jays team that these guys are white out at the plate, hitting as a collective at 289, as you've got Bo Bichette, Matt Chapman, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Kevin Kiermaier, all hitting at least a 350 for the team. Now, Kevin Kiermaier is not going to continue at 382 all season long, but Bichette already has 4 home runs this season. Matt Chapman, I don't know what's gotten into him, but he's seeing the ball better than ever. 15 RBI, 3 home runs. George Springer, Vlad Guerrero Jr., pair of home runs. You know that they're going to be there when it's all said and done. Ale Underkirk, off to a slow start to the year along with Brandon Belt. They should be able to pick it up. And for the Blue Jays, far better bullpen. Yimi Garcia, Anthony Bass, throw in there Tim Mays, Jordan Romano, the closer. All these guys are solid. They pick up Eric Swanson, who had a sub-2.3 ERA with the Seattle Mariners last season, and that's one thing that is really lacking with the Detroit Tigers now. Their one saving grace a season ago was that they had a bullpen of guys that were able to do a nice job of being able to hold down the fort, as you had guys like Andrew Chafin, Gregory Soto, Michael Fulmer, Joey Menes, all these guys that had a sub-3.5 ERA. They do have Jose Cicero back from a season ago, but now you're relying upon Alex Lang, who had about a 3.70 ERA a season ago. Jason Foley is okay in the bullpen, but he's not quite what those other guys were, and that's a big, giant issue for a Detroit Tigers team that they might not be the worst lineup in all of baseball, but they're certainly a bottom 5 lineup in all of baseball. They have been able to generate 6 home runs in their first 10-plus games of the season this year. They entered into yesterday hitting a 201 as a collective. Now, Spencer Torkelson is starting to move the line. He's hitting about a 250 overall. Riley Green has been able to give you about a 250 batting average as well. You do have Jason Rogers, who's been able to supply a pair of home runs, but this is still a Detroit Tigers team that they've got an uphill battle to climb. Gary Carpenter, I'll give him a little bit of credit. He had a home run yesterday. He's hitting about a 240, but guys like Miguel Cabrera, Eric Haas, Ryan Kreidler, Nick Maton, Navi Baez, all these guys sitting below a 200. It's just a big issue for them. So I did set my total at 8.8 just merely because I don't think that the Tigers hold up their end of the bargain. When it comes to the total, I'm going to be looking at the under, and with the Blue Jays willing to lay up to about a -130 or so on this run line. That will wrap things up for the Thursday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. A big thanks to Danny Vietti over at CBS Sports and the Wake Rake Podcast for joining me in the last segment. If you do like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, the Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at Unit_41. Keep in mind, letters EM, the mean does not matter, so as per usual, please send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire on whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast by that 5-star review, coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season. And these will be coming at you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.